Warming up, Kerri, warming up our final night tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm sad though. Final night.
Hey, Kieren, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be here. It's my first night.
Oh. Well, good to have you in, mate. Good to have you in. Kerri, you're sad, aren't you? I'm dead.
I am sad. I'm sad for a couple of reasons. One, that it's the last night. And two, we've got some sad news that unfortunately Anna couldn't join us tonight. So it's just the three of us. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip it. And guess who's going to be interviewed? Cookie, no?
No, not me, mate. I haven't won a gold yet, but I am planning on entering the 2032 Olympics in lawn bowls. So
yeah, we have to get lawn bowls in by then to be in it.
Is it not in?
No, not at the moment.
Well, you're a very good. We've heard about a lot of good campaigners. We've heard about the water polo. We've heard about the volleyball, the beach volleyball. So I'm sure I can get in 2032.
Oh, okay. We'll leave that up to you then.
Yeah, okay. Now, before we start off and before we do all our normal little intros, I just want to make everyone aware that we are raising funds for the Australian Sports Foundation. We've been doing it for the last 17 nights, Kerri. Are you glad you're going to get your nights back? You are, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm a bit glad about that. It's been great though, sharing it with everybody. It's so good to see so many people come night after night after night. So we know that this has been an inspiring story to tell, the Olympic story, the Olympics that would have been, and we hope that tonight will be the best of the best.
The best of the best. Well, I know you're plenty of stories. Hey?
No pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, please make sure you click on the offers area right now. We are raising funds for the Australian Sports Foundation. 16,000 clubs are in danger of shutting their doors in the next 6 months due to COVID. 70,000 clubs in general need $1.2 billion. It is our final night, so please do dig deep into your pockets and make a donation tonight by clicking on that offers area. All donations are tax deductible. Also, virtual cafe rules. Please keep the conversation nice and positive. Ask plenty of questions in the chat room. We'll get to those at the end. And also, please make sure that you share it across your social channels as well. By all means, take a screen grab of all us three legends. I'll put myself in there too. And please make sure you share it across your social channels by tagging us all and just saying thanks for what an epic 17 nights it has been. There's been a lot of work gone into this whole series, in particular from you, Kerri, as well, researching all these amazing athletes who have managed to come into the Cuppa of Life Cafe and tell their incredible stories. And, I've been blown away, Kerri, and I know we should be doing this at the end, but I've been blown away by the amazing talent that have been able to appear in the Cuppa of Life Cafe. And it's all got to do with what you've tried to achieve out of this, pretty sad period with COVID, with the Tokyo Olympics being cancelled, and you having this idea at the start, probably about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago now, where we had a chat and been able to make it all possible, mate. And big ups to you and your new business venture, The Athlete Story, because it's an incredible feat that you've been able to achieve over these last 17 days. And from my heart to yours, massive ups to you, my friend.
Thank you. Well, we left the best two till last, didn't we, Kieren?
I'll let you take that call, but sure.
Kieren, mate, seriously, about 5 or 6 athletes have just been rattling off how that 1,500 meter swim just changed their mindset. That's what they remembered. Mate, you are going to have, I know you've got plenty of stories to tell tonight, but tonight's going to be an epic night. So we're really glad to have you on. What would you have been doing right now if you weren't, if the Tokyo Olympics was going to be on?
Well, look, I mean, I would hope that I would have been there. I didn't have any confirmed plans beforehand, so it was actually most likely I'd have been on the couch watching it like everybody else from back here, enjoying, I guess, the closing ceremony and feeling a little bit sad that the Games is over. It's a funny thing, we spend years and years and years preparing for it. You get to a point in the cycle where you just think, oh man, I wish it was here. I want to get this over and done with. And then the last day rolls around. You think, oh my God, I can't believe it's over already. This is terrible. When's the next one? So it's closing ceremony on the couch, most likely.
Now, Kerri,
yeah,
have you already answered this question over the last 17 nights? Like, what would you been doing?
No, actually, I haven't. I would probably be in Melbourne in a studio with Channel 7 commentating the beach volleyball. Probably not tonight, though, because we would have already finished. But I would have probably still been in Melbourne partying with all the other commentators who have been needed tonight and watching probably Joe Griggs and Bruce McAvaney and all the greats doing the, commentating the closing ceremony. But I agree with what Kieren said. Like, I remember in Athens, my third Olympics, as soon as I was out of the competition, my eyes just lit up and I went, I am going to do every single thing I possibly can in these last few days, including that day of the closing ceremony, and just soak it all up, because I knew that was it for me. I wouldn't be back. So, yeah, it's a really sweet moment, but also a sad moment.
Totally. And Kieren, let's chat about you, mate. So, you ready?
Well, I thought when you say that to me like that, I'm thinking, oh my God, what's next? Yeah, sure, I'm good.
Mate, you're regarded as one of the best ever long distance swimmers. I'm going to read off some of these things. In 1992 Barcelona, the 1500 meter free, you won gold. 400 meter free, you won silver. Atlanta, the gold in the 1500, and then in Sydney, you won the silver medal. World champs, 2 golds, 1 silver, and then the Commonwealth Games, 4 golds, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. When you look back at your swimming career and the Olympic career, how's it made you feel, mate? Do you get to reminisce on it right now?
Oh, look, it's funny because it's not something that you sort of stop and reminisce too much about. I think as an athlete and as a person, I was always kind of looking to the next challenge, the next thing. So I tend to look forward more than backwards. But inevitably, when the games period comes around, it comes up again. In fact, I was really shocked the other day. Someone sent me an article that was in Swimming World magazine where they're sort of rating, best athletes from like all the different events and strokes across the calendar, and somehow I managed to top the list for the 1500, which was a bit of a shock because there's been some legends, both Australian and of course the great Russian Vladimir Salnikov, and I did sort of pause after that and think a little bit about it, because it's the thing that I guess I never really considered much, and and that context kind of brings it forward, is that I was the first person to defend a 1500 meter title, back to back, and the times that I sort of did, and the period that the Australian swim team had during the 90s, the whole thing was just extraordinary. I mean, it really was a golden era, and to be a core part of that was really quite fantastic. And I catch up with a few of the guys every now and again, and because of some of the anniversaries that pop around, there's a few photos and things that roll by, and you sort of takes you back to those moments, and it really is extraordinary to think that I was there and I did that. That's amazing.
Oh, mate, I remember when I was a kid, like I remember that 1500 meter swim. I'd always look forward to it, to the Olympic Games, and I think I cheered every stroke that you did in those 1500 meters. And just going back to when you first started swimming, though, like we read today that you kicked it off when you were young, because was it because you were suffering asthma when you were a kid? Because I suffered asthma when I was a kid, and I wanted to. It was hard for me to beat, and my mum tried to get me into swimming, but I was a redhead and couldn't really do much. But do you suffer from asthma as a kid, and did you jump in the pool because of that or not?
No, look, I did. I mean, I did have a little bit of exercise-induced asthma of all things, but to be honest, it was really more that, a kid growing up in Brisbane in the 70s, we just did sport and we did everything. It wasn't, you didn't even really sort of stop and think, do I want to or not, or should I or not? It was just what everybody did. And the thing that was kind of consistent for me in all of those different sports that I tried was that I was generally pretty crap at them. It's not surprising. Swimmers don't have many of us don't have a whole lot of coordination and capacity. So, yes, I saw that, Kerri. And so, of course, as you sort of play all the different footy codes and cricket and tennis and gymnastics and running and all of these things, I just really struggled to find a connection and a joy in it. I was a part of it because it was just what you did. But it wasn't until I started swimming, and in many ways, you know, fell into it. The primary school I went to had a swimming pool, had a, you know, a coach that was full-time on staff, and everybody, you know, we did swimming for PE in summer, but on a Friday night there was the club would run, and you know, if you attended the school, you were just automatically in the club and you could go. And it was this real social thing. It was this real kind of community thing that went. And I started going on Friday nights. I didn't actually learn to swim until I went to school. And
right.
Once I started, I could swim competently enough to get across the pool, which was the sort of the first event you did. We started going Friday night socially because it was good fun and what we did, and really, you know, in many ways that environment and that community just captured me, and I think also, you know, I found this activity where we'd get in and race, you do your time, which I'd write up on the chalkboard at the end of the pool, and that became a benchmark that you could come back next week and try and beat again, and the week after, and as you progressed and you sort of hit milestones, you could qualify for other events, and that progression and that challenge of seeing how good I could be without all of the noise and issue of you know, being the guy that you know, missed the goal, or although I was usually goalie in soccer and let another one by, you avoided that, and it just became about your performance and what you were doing, which was a lot more enjoyable for me at that point.
Oh, totally. And you made your first Australian rep at 16, yeah?
Yeah, really quickly. You know, I honestly, I was not one of these guys that sort of from the minute I was born just dreamed of being an Olympian. You know, once I started on the cycle, I wanted to see how good I could be. I enjoyed it, you know, and it's a whole interesting sort of conversation that could go on for hours. You know, I was one of those ones that enjoyed the training and the work. The racing was just kind of your ta-da moment at the end of a cycle where you could see how good you got. But actually, the thing that I really enjoyed was the pushing myself, you know, day in, day out, week in, week out, just to get those incremental improvements, and you know, the squad that I was in, the people that were part of that group, you know, it was a whole social scene as well, which I just really loved. And I saw my first age nationals at 13. You know, and I actually went to the Commonwealth Games trials as a 15-year-old turning 16. And I still to this day remember Mr. Carew, my coach, saying to me, well, you know, after the age nationals, he said, you know, you've qualified. Queensland, the state, because you've qualified, will pay for you to go to the trials. Why don't you just go, give it a crack, and, you know, see if you enjoy it and you decide that it's something you'd like to pursue, it'll be good experience. And, you know, 15, 16-year-old boy, I just grunted and went, yeah, okay. There was about as much thought as that went into it, and yeah, went along to the trials in Adelaide, which was, you know, that was a life-changing moment for me, and not because of what I did in the pool, but actually a swim that I saw in that in those trials. Glenn Houseman, who was the best up-and-coming 1,500-metre swimmer at the time, he actually in the heats in Adelaide in those trials broke the world record for the 1,500 freestyle. He was never credited with it because the timing equipment failed. But, you know, I will never, ever forget being this young kid, my first Open Nationals, and being in the stands, watching someone in my event break a world record and do something which, honestly, you know, we were sort of led to believe at the time was impossible. You know, breaking 15 minutes, you can't do it. But, you know, Salnikov, the Russian, he had the world record at 14:54, but he was different. You know, otherwise the rest of us, you couldn't do it. And, you know, here's this kid from Rockhampton, he was a couple of years older than me, but just hammered through that race. And I remember being in the stands watching him break the 15-minute barrier and the world record in my event. And I was awestruck. You know, it just lit this fire in me about what's possible, and the fact that, you know, this thing that I'd been led to believe couldn't be done I saw it done.
You saw it being done.
And that was it. I just had a whole new outlook on what was possible, and really, that opened the door for me to actually believe that maybe I could go on and do something, more and legal.
You definitely did that, and we look forward to hearing those stories very shortly. I'm going to turn to you, Kerri. Firstly, were you just ordering Uber Eats with your phone first?
I was recording the fact that the three of us are on here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, done.
Photo.
I'm going to turn the tables to you, my friend. 20-year career, and I didn't actually even know this, but I didn't even know that you did indoor volleyball before beach volleyball. So 10 years of both, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off because I was like Kieren. I never saw anything on TV and went, oh, I want to be an Olympian. I want to play for my country. I never had any of those thoughts. I played just for fun, a whole bunch of different sports. I probably could have ended up as a netballer or a basketballer or something like that because of my height, and I did have some ball skills.
Are you good in the pool?
Hey?
Are you good in the pool?
No, I'm hopeless. No, yeah. Can't even do 25 meters. So yeah, we are polar opposites. But I was just invited to go and play a social game at my brother's local rec centre team. And just because he was a bit older than me and he had some cute friends that were playing in this team, and I went, oh, I'll just go and, hang out and be the cool little sister. Yeah, and I really...
Well, you're going to show this photo already, because even though it's prior to the question, but look, you can look at you, Kerri, hey?
Yeah, that's me on the left, not the right. The lady on the right, she's looking quite serious. She was actually our coach, and she was like the one that really gave me the guts and the determination, and really drove us hard when I first started playing. She taught me everything very early on. But yeah, I absolutely, same as Kieren, fell in love with the community of our sport and played everything I could. I was playing before school, after school, using all my holidays as soon as I left school, using all my holiday pay and all my sick leave and everything, leave without pay, to travel the world playing indoor volleyball.
Well, you're just naturally skilled at it, because you got representing Australia pretty quickly, right? From playing.
Yeah, I had hand-eye coordination. I have hand-eye coordination, but I think the fact that I was in South Australia, where I had one of the best players who became the coach, Sue Dancy, who was in that photo, she was our club coach, and she just instilled such a professionalism in terms of the fact that we had to do a lot of reps, and we didn't do easy reps, we did hard reps. We had this drill called the blue lip drill, and It meant that he would just keep hammering us with balls, spiking them, throwing them all over the gym, and we'd have to go for them. And if we didn't even make an effort, we'd get punished, and our scores would go backwards, and we'd keep going minutes in a row until our lips went blue. And that was why it was named the...
Is that why it was named?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they actually went blue, but the girls named it the blue lip drill. But she instilled that hard work ethic into us for sure.
So you made it to 3 Olympics. You bronze in Atlanta, and then gold that everyone knows down in beautiful Bondi. How hard was it before you even got to that moment in time, to be in the sport where I know when Nat was on, you hardly had anyone supporting you in the backgrounds. I'm guessing money wasn't a big earner for you.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, well, I actually when I left school, I planned to go to college or university. I was going to become a PE teacher, like most sporty kids. And I needed money. So I started working, and I never ended up going to uni because I had to work to buy my tracksuit, to buy my shoes and socks, to buy my knee pads. I mean, one year I remember we had to give our tracksuits back for the next national team. I mean, our sport was so poor. This was indoor volleyball. And then when I switched to beach volleyball, that required a lot more traveling overseas, and then hiring a coach. We decided to get our own coach. So we had to find ways to make money. And, apart from doing the Lamington drives and those sorts of things, there was no GoFundMe pages back then. We learnt how to attract sponsors. I would ring the media, and they actually really loved it. I would ring them and say, hey, do you want to come and do a story? We're down at the beach. I was living in WA at the time. come and take some photos, and we're going away for a world tour event. So we'd started to get a bit of traction with the media. And then from that, we kind of used that to leverage a bit of sponsorship. I think Carlton was our first sponsor, a beer sponsor. Probably not the best, but when they give you $10,000, that's like a lifetime.
Where was their logo, Kerri?
Hey?
Where was their logo?
Oh, on our butt, of course. That's the biggest part of our uniform, right there on the back of the butt.
You also spent a bit of time overseas as well. You went over to Italy at the age of 25. What made you go over there?
Yeah, well, look, that was before I started playing beach volleyball. I was one of the top players in Australia on the indoor court, and I was captaining the national team, but I just felt like I could get better. And the only way I could get better was to be the worst player in the best team. So I went to Europe and I found a team that took me on, and they paid me, which was amazing. Like, I got paid for the first time ever playing indoor volleyball, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I tell you, like, I literally got sacked halfway through the season because the team was losing. I was playing my best volleyball ever, but the team was losing. They sacked me. They gave me a choice. They said, you can either stay here and train with the team, but you can't play because we're going to get in another foreign player. Actually, a Brazilian was going to come and take my place on the court. Or we can pay you out and you can go home. And so I decided to actually stay and train because the purpose of me being there was to get better. And then within a week of just showing that I wasn't going to give up, they called me back into the office and said, we've decided to keep you and sack the other foreign players. So that's where I really learnt how to, not give up and just keep pushing through no matter what happens. And
you had a pretty serious injury. Is that the reason why you had to stop indoor and move to beach?
Yeah, absolutely. I came back to Australia and I was playing at the national champs, and that photo on the right there is actually me in hospital.
You are not happy in that photo, my friend.
Yeah, look, I'm holding the trophy there because our team actually ended up winning the game. It was the grand final, but I was taken to hospital halfway through. I destroyed my right knee. I blew out my cruciate ligament, my medial ligament, all my cartilage and meniscus, and I literally could not play again after that. And that's why I switched to beach volleyball, which was a whole lot softer on my joints.
Well, we'll get to your amazing accolades in beach volleyball very soon. Back to you, Kieren. Now, 1,500 metres. Were you just naturally born as a 1,500 metre swimmer? I think a lot of us would take it for granted around how much training would need to be involved. How hard is it really to prep yourself for a 1,500 metre swim?
Oh, look, it is the most.
You're very young there, mate. Look at you, hey?
Yeah, I know. God, I'm glad I'd like to think I got better as I got older. Maybe I didn't anyway. Look, the thing about the 1,500, I guess, is that it's one of those races that you've got to have the right physicality for it, and the reality is I wasn't a sprinter. I never was, and so as my mates who were sprinters would often say, I just kept going until everyone else was smart enough to stop and I won something. But in reality, it was the thing that, again, sort of captured me. I didn't have a lot of fast natural speed. So I used to have to train a lot to build up, that capacity and momentum. And I also enjoyed it. I think there's something about, the evolution of an event. For me, sprinting was always sort of close your eyes, hold your breath, and throw your arms around really fast and touch the ball and see what happens. And it sort of felt more like gambling than actually racing. Whereas, the 1,500, the race evolves, you've got time, there's different sections to the race that are really clearly defined. Which I might add, sprinters will tell you that they have the same in their races. My brain obviously just doesn't work fast enough to notice in a sprint. That was really it, But the funny thing about the training, and people often say that about swimming, about how much training you have to do and how hard it is and all of that. But I think like any activity, if you really love it and you're engrossed in what you do, there's elements of it which aren't great fun. I mean, no one. I never enjoyed doing the drills and skills and the sort of the fine technical stuff, but you had to do it because it was important to make sure that you were prepared properly. But doing the big long sessions and just pumping out the work and really feeling like you're achieving something was just what I enjoyed doing. But you're always a part of a squad. Everybody's always doing the training. You know, there's a lot of interval work, so you're stopping, you're talking to each other. There's a much greater social element to it than I think people realise. But you know, when you I think I was 14 when I swam my first 1500,
right.
And won my first state medal at the same time. So, you know, when you swim a race, you win a medal and you think, oh, hey, that's a bit of all right. Off you go.
That's amazing at 14. My son's 14 now, and I can't even get him to go out in the rain and get wet.
No, don't worry. I look back at it too, and I like because my oldest is George is 22. I got a 21-year-old Harry as well. And you know, I look at both of them, and I just can't comprehend that at their age, the things that I was sort of involved in and doing. It is quite fascinating when you get into that life, and you would have found the same, Kerri. I mean, going to Italy at the age you did on your own to train and compete. It's kind of extraordinary what you can do when you're presented with a challenge and you're given the opportunity and you're committed to it.
Mate, speaking of challenges though, like, so you win gold and then in Barcelona, and then you're heading to Atlanta, and everyone remembers that swim. But you also faced a whole bunch of things in the lead up to that, whether it's illness, injury, or loss of form. Can you tell us a little bit about those 4 years between the games and how you got yourself to that moment?
Yeah, look, the thing that it's sort of interesting when you look back on it, and you'll hear a lot of athletes across any discipline talking about, you know, how much easier the first one was than any of the subsequent wins after that. And I think when you're hungry and it's new and you're trying to achieve your first of something, being committed and focused isn't hard, right? It's just you're on that journey. And so, you know, Barcelona was my first Olympics, first gold medal. I actually went to the Worlds in Rome in '94, and I hadn't won a World Championships because I came second in '91 in Perth. Same with the Commonwealth Games, which just happened to be in '94 as well. So I still had these things to look forward to, which were my firsts, and I did those. But I got out of the pool in Rome in '94 at the World Championships, which was, you know, really the best I ever was physically prepared and swam. Although in the 400, I actually got sick. And while I won the 1500, I didn't sort of swim to the speed potential that I knew that I had in me in that race. And when I came out the other side of that, all I was worried about after that was going to Atlanta and defending my title. And I spent 2 years, or at least 18 months, you know, after Rome, just imagining the 1500 in Atlanta, sorry, you know, thinking about what it would be like to be there and defend my title. And you know, the short truth of it was in that environment and looking forward like that to that opportunity, I just wasn't focused as I had been previously in my career. I didn't work as hard as I had been previously in my career. And by the time I got to the trials which were in April of '96 in Sydney, you know, yeah, there was illness and injury, but you know, I'm a little bit of a hard ass when it comes to that stuff, because when you're preparing for a one in 4 year opportunity,
yes,
injury and illness is lack of preparation, not bad luck, you know. So those things were there, but it was just because I hadn't prepared properly. I hadn't done the work the way that I'd previously done it. And it's probably worth also recognising, you know, when I say that, it's not like I've been lazy. You know, in an Olympic environment, 0.5% off your potential is the difference between, you know, being in the run for a medal and not being on the team. You know, it's so finely balanced, and so, you know, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I was lazy or anything, but just looking back on it, you know, just those little things that you used to drive yourself to do every day, day in and day out. When I was initially going through the ranks and hungry, just wasn't quite doing it with the same focus and intensity. And by the time I got to the trials, I just wasn't ready. fortunately made the team, managed to come second to Dan Kowalski, and booked my ticket to Atlanta. But I had a hell of a mountain to climb at that point.
Yeah, and then once you're in Atlanta, like obviously you went through the heat process. How was the heat process in the 1500? Because you secured the eighth lane. Was that difficult? The heat process to even get to that eighth spot?
Yeah, look, it was, and it's always funny the things that you sort of go through and you don't really appreciate. But by the time I got to Atlanta, I'd spent 3 months, back training my backside off better than I'd ever done before. And when I arrived in Atlanta, I was training at as quick or faster than I'd ever trained before. But because of the I guess the ground I had to make up between the trials and the games, I hadn't done a lot of racing. And usually in the years before, getting to that point, I always raced. Like I'd race regional carnivals, state carnivals. I used to do lead up swims in triathlon and all this before. And so, I always had that kind of background thing that I knew that I was race ready and sharp. And because I hadn't been doing that, when I got to Atlanta, I wasn't sure. And even though I'd qualified to race in the 4x200 relay, I actually asked not to be selected because I wasn't convinced I was good enough, and I was worried I was going to let the team down. And so by the time the heats came around, I hadn't raced in anything, even in that meet, which I'd always had a 400 at least, sometimes the 200 to get in and get the rhythm going, the cobwebs, as we used to say. And when the heat for the 1500 came around, it was my first time racing in that pool. It was the first race of the meet. And, I always used to go out hard in the 1500 for no other reason than that was my best race tactic. That was how I got the best out of myself. But what it also meant was that, you're in front and you should be leading and dominating right from the get-go. And 800 or so into that race, not only was I not leading, I was midfield. And every time I tried to sort of pick up the speed and try and catch up to the guys that were actually leading at that point in time, I couldn't respond. And, it sort of got to that point where all of the race plan and everything that you prepared for just went out the window because it wasn't going the way I expected it to. And, I really started to panic that, I wasn't going to be good enough to challenge for the gold, even if I was in the final. And that, the heat was as far as I was going to get, and just carried through and managed to scrape into it more by good fortune than, good planning at that point.
Talk about good fortune, but when you're lining up on the blocks, you're in the 8th lane. When that gun hit, like, what were you thinking? Was it just like, did you feel like you had the chance that you made the final? Because, when the final's there, you've got a chance, right? You've got 1 in 8 chance of making it, winning it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
look, I mean, in all honesty, I won that gold medal about 3 hours before the race. I got to the pool, to prepare, get ready, warm up and do all that stuff. And I was actually getting a bit of a quick massage from my physio and just an alignment. And as I was laying there, I started to sort of have that real panic nerves that you can only experience when you're really in that moment of completely irrational fear that your life's over because you're not going to achieve what you wanted to. And as I was laying there, really beginning to freak out, I kind of hit this moment where I got really angry with myself and what I should have recognized was the emotional state that I was in, but actually I recognized the physical state. And, the first thing you sort of learn as a young athlete when you're coming through the ranks is how to control your nerves. A little bit's good, none at all is bad, and sort of in the corner vomiting in the fetal position is also bad. You need that nice little sweet spot where you're anxious and you're excited, but you're completely in control and rational. And, because I was so physically overwrought, I just got angry with myself and sort of had that moment of, you idiot, you know, if you don't get these nerves under control, you won't be able, like, you're guaranteed you're going to swim bad. You'll be exhausted before you even get to the race because of all the adrenaline and energy you're burning up. You need to sort this out right now. You know, you didn't get this nervous as a 10-year-old. What did you do then that enabled you to, you know, to perform? And you know, I honestly, I just went back to what I used to do as a kid to get my nerves under control, and ran that process, you know. And after running the process that, you know, I'd practiced and worked for me, I sort of got back under control, got the brain, you know, calm and rational again, and realized that I had a choice, and that was the same choice that I'd had, you know, since the first time I started swimming, which was to get out there and do my best, or allow the fear and uncertainty to overwhelm me and know that I wouldn't do my best. And, you know, that choice at that moment was an easy one, because I knew that if I did my best, it didn't matter whether I came first or last. I knew I could go home and look myself in the mirror and be proud of what I did. And it just created this real, you know, sense of control. I wouldn't say calm, but I just kind of got control of myself again. And, you know, I think, and I mean, I'm sure Kerri absolutely feels the same. You know, when you line up in that moment of battle and you're about to race, the difference between winning and losing and getting the best out of yourself or not is your mentality. You know, the physical side of it is already done. You're not getting any physically stronger or, you know, fitter or technically proficient. Yeah. It's your mentality. And once I got that kind of back in control again, I was fine. And I do remember sort of stepping up behind the blocks and sort of looking down lane 8 and just thinking to myself, right, let's do it. Let's get this done. And I was actually looking forward to seeing, you know, how I was going to go and what my time would be and how fast I could go.
Did you just concentrate on your time, or could you see where every other competitor was in that race? Like, is it easy to see from lane 8? I'm not a swimmer, so I've got no freaking idea, but...
No, look, it's not easy to see. Even it doesn't matter what lane you're in, because the lane ropes are, I don't know, the 15-20 centimeter diameter or something. Right. And so, you know, you can see over them if you lift your head up, but that throws your stroke out. So you're kind of trained not to do that. You can certainly see the splash of the people around you, and I think, you know, when you're in the middle of the pool in lane 4. Or 5, 6, whatever, you know, you'll be in the thick of it, so you can see the splash and the arms coming out of the water of the people around you as you breathe. But you tend not, in a 1500 especially, you tend not to get too caught up in exactly where your competition is, because, you know, it's a strategic game, you know. And I think the good thing about being in lane 8, though, for me in that race, was because I was so far away from the middle of the pool, I couldn't see Dan and the Englishman, Graham Smith, I think it was, who were in the middle of the pool. And there was always going to be that risk, if I'd have been in the middle with them, I would have got sucked into a race. Yeah. As opposed to just being in lane 8, can't really see what's going on. Just race your race, do your thing, get out there and go for it. And, you know, so I think in a lot of regards that was also a positive, because it did mean that I didn't get sucked into racing the other guys and you know, potentially allowing them to dictate terms and beat me.
Mate, we had Dan on, it was last night, wasn't it? No, not 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said the same thing. He just didn't know what, like, yeah, he was just running his own race, but yeah, it was just, yeah, it was all part of it. That race for you, Kerri, we heard Nat chatting about it as well, but it was quite a pivotal night for you as well, watching Kieren race that night.
Yeah, well, Natalie and I, in Atlanta, was our first Olympics. We went in ranked 6th in the world, so we had an outside chance for a medal, according to everybody else. According to us, our goal was to win a medal. We didn't put a colour on it. We just said we want to win a medal. And unfortunately, we got absolutely thrashed in the semi. We played one of our best games of our lives in the quarterfinal to make the semis against the top American team in America, with everyone chanting against us, you know, going, USA, USA. You know, and that's Dad's in the corner somewhere yelling out Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Couldn't hear him at all. But we were, I remember being on the bus on the way home from that really bad loss in the semi-final against a team that we'd beaten before, and they'd beaten us as well. It was about 50-50. And we knew that we'd just thrown away the chance of being in the gold medal match, you know, and it was a massive thing that we were even in the finals. And Natalie was so down on herself. Like she literally couldn't lift her head and look us in the eye and talk. And we had to really talk about the next day when we were going to go out and play for bronze. So we said to her, and she loves getting massages, and she was always getting some sort of attention to her body that just helped her feel ready, you know, getting strapped or you know, adjusted or whatever. And so we sent her off to the medical area for the Australian team. And normally there's, you know, I don't know, 10, 20 tables in there and heaps of therapists, doctors, nurses, physios, chiros, everyone to look after you. And she walks in there and the place is just completely empty. No athletes in there. Normally it's teaming with athletes. But just around the corner or just a little bit further away, they were actually all crowded around this little TV set. And that's all there was back then, a little TV set, and they were streaming Kieren's race. And Natalie's just like, oh God, okay, I'll stand here for 15 minutes and then I'll get my massage until they finish this bloody race. And she used to be a swimmer, so she did have some idea about what she was watching. And she stood there with everyone, and she remembers everyone was just kind of like, oh yeah, look, lucky Kieren made it. You know, people had pretty much written you off, Kieren, as you know, and didn't think that you'd even get up there. And she watched you dive in and just take off, you know, like the super fish that you were. And she just said the energy in the room just started pretty flat, and then it just built and built and built, and everyone was screaming and high-fiving. And, you know, as you hit the wall and you won the gold medal, she's just on the tippy toes of her feet, throwing her arms in the air and going, oh, I don't need a bloody massage, you know, I'm going to go on bronze medal tomorrow. And so, you know, and I've told you that story before, Kieren, and I think, you know, that's what the beauty of the games is that you have this inspirational, you know, inspirational performances around you that just spur you on. And our performance then, you know, spurs on the next person, and then their performance spurs on the next person. So that was phenomenal for us. So thank you.
Yeah, all good. Kerri, something that we've always spoken about since we've met is, you know, you won the bronze medal, but that's because you went to that Olympics and you probably didn't have your heart, like you wanted to win a medal, and you keep on saying that. And the difference between how you turned that bronze to how you and Natalie won the gold medal, can you just describe what that difference was between Atlanta to Sydney?
Yeah, well, if I had one word to describe it, it would be belief. And Kieren's story about how he said he won the race 3 hours before the race, that's exactly what our coaches did for us. They got us to believe that we were already Olympic gold medalists. So we came up with this plan. We put it in Olympic rings, as you can see. It's called the Gold Medal Excellence Plan. It had 4 different parts: our why, our reasons, our rules, what we had to do, and the characteristics that we had to uphold. And we had a team of 5, and that's the motley crew, all of us on the left there. You know, we had 2 American guys, so our coach, Steve Anderson, in the blue T-shirt, our mental coach or our success coach, Ashley, who was really instrumental in helping us build that last little bit of belief that we needed in the last year before the games. And then our personal trainer, our physical trainer, who kind of was like the glue that kept the 5 of us, because we were all so radically different to each other as human beings, but he kept us all together. And every single one of us played a part in that, even though Natalie and I were the only 2 on the court. So the belief was built in the lead up. You can't just kind of decide the day before and go, oh yeah, I'm going to win gold tomorrow. You know, you've got to develop that belief over time. And we did some fun things, like we did firewalking and walking on broken glass. You know, a lot of people have heard those stories, and I actually do that now when I do motivational presentations. I get people to walk on broken glass with me, but it's all about basically pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, doing something that you don't think is possible, doing it, and then looking back and going, wow, like if I can do that, what else can I do? And that was what it was like for us, because the Brazilians were unbeatable. The team we beat in the final had won everything bar 2 or 3 events in the lead up to the Olympics. They were, you know, on top of the world, very well and truly on top of the world. We were ranked number 3 going into the Sydney Games. So this time we were like, okay, medal's not good enough. We're going for gold. And we just followed this plan, and we lived into being the best team in the world. You know, everything went into that event. And some people say to me, like, it's such a cool plan. What would have happened if it didn't work? And we would have probably still come out of it feeling like Kieren said, that we'd done our best. We'd left no stone unturned. We'd done everything possible. And that was just as good as we could be. But luckily on the day, I think the Brazilians just went, holy moly, like, when are these girls going to back off? Because we just didn't back off. We just kept on pushing. And Rob just asked in the chat, you know, what was your your strength in the game? And mine was serving. So the belief that I could serve 2 of the best serves of my career in the last 2 points of the gold medal match was what I worked on for about 2 years leading up to that game.
Did you visualize that moment?
I visualized the serving. I could literally stand at the back of the court, and every time I served a ball, I would have served thousands of balls in training leading up to that. Every time I stood there, I would say to myself, this is the gold medal point. This is the gold medal point every single time. And so it was drowned. It was just like, my brain was just soaked in with this moment, that when I actually had the ball in my hands in that moment, it wasn't unusual. It was just like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Boom, bang, finish, done.
So the ball went out after you served it, and I watched it again today. You were just down on the ground. You didn't want to even look up. Like, Natalie's trying to drag you up, going, come on, let's go. But how was that moment? Describe that feeling that the last ball landed out for you.
Yeah, well, I served the last point. They couldn't control it. It was flying back over the net. Nat was standing at the net. She kind of turned and looked, and she's hoping that I wouldn't go for it. I saw it was going. I had to follow it. Once it was out, and it was well and truly out, so I didn't even have to look at the referee. I just hit the ground, and it was the moment that all that zone, or that kind of, like, you know, the focus that I built around myself and Natalie in the court just kind of all shattered down around me. And all of a sudden I saw all these 10,000 people staring at me, and it was almost like fear. I was almost too scared to look up, because I'm like, oh my God, they're staring at me. Although they've been looking at me for my whole last 10 years, it was just like, oh my God, we did it. And so for the first few minutes, I couldn't bring myself to look up. It was just that relief and joy and everything. And then once she finally got me up out of the sand, I still kept saying, I can't believe it, I can't believe it. But it's almost like I couldn't believe everything that we'd done had worked.
Yeah, I get you. 2000 Olympics for you, Kieren. So another 4 years, mate. You said the 4 years before Atlanta. How was those 4 years heading into Sydney? Was it just like, oh, you know, it's my hometown, I'm going to, you know, this is just, I have to be there?
Yeah, no, look, no, actually. And it's funny when I look back on it now, because you sort of think to yourself, well, of course, it's an Olympics in Australia. That had to be the only reason that you needed to actually go. But, you know, I guess the Atlanta experience, when I got out the other side of it, I just wasn't convinced I could go through that again. And it's not just about the challenge of the race, but, you know, I knew what the next 4 years of training would be like, and the commitment and the effort that was going to be required. And, you know, had a daughter at the time as well, and just sort of family comes along, you think, oh, you know, I just don't know. And it's funny, I went to this lunch that the Australian Olympic Committee was holding. Was in early '97, not long after the World Short Course Championships had been swum, and I'd actually not got back in the pool at that point. I had almost 9 months off after the Olympics, which, side note, stupid idea. Don't any swimmers out there, if you're going to keep going, don't stop for that long. Takes a very long time to come back. But I went to this lunch, and that was the 1500 lunch, and they had all of the living Olympic 1500 metre gold medalists there, as well as a couple of other Aussie superstars. And so, you know, Sal Nikoff, Mike Burton, John Conrads, Murray Rose, Steve Holland, who was an Australian world record holder, myself, and Grant Hackett. And Grant had just won the World Short Course Championships only very recently before that. And so I remember being on stage and they lined us up on sort of in sort of year of performance, and I kind of looked down at those guys that had gone before me, and then turned around and looked up at Grant and thought, yeah, it's another good reason to retire. He's a good 3 or 4 inches taller than me, so you know, that wasn't that wasn't the most inspiring of moments. But I actually had this chance to chat to Salnikov, and you know, he for me is the greatest 1500 meter swimmer that's ever lived. He won a bronze in '76, gold in '80. Obviously, Russia boycotted '84, and then he came back in Seoul in '88 and won again. Held the world record for well over a decade. First man under 15 minutes, etc. So, you know, just groundbreaking, incredible athlete. And this breakfast was the first time, or lunch was the first time I had a chance to actually talk to him. And I remember, you know, just having one of those 20-minute kind of verbal diarrhea moments where you get that chance to engage with someone who's been there and done that you admire, who, you know, I don't know, I just felt really comfortable sharing with him all of my hopes, fears, dreams, and everything else in between. And got to the end of the conversation, and I sort of, because the point being, I'd said to him, I just don't know if I can keep swimming and go to Sydney. I think I've probably had enough. And he actually said to me, well, there's 2 reasons you're going. Firstly, it's a home games, like once in 40 generations do people get the opportunity to do that, and it's unlike anything you'll ever experience. So you just have to go. And he said, and you know, I do remember thinking to myself, because I was lucky enough to be on the big presentation team that did the bid for the games in '93 in Monaco. So I'd known for a long time we were going to have the Sydney Games, obviously. But the other thing that I had said to him is that I'd had this goal that I wrote down when I was a kid and I first started swimming. Not necessarily actually because I believed it. It was more of I was given a task to write a short, medium, and long-term goals at a camp I was on. And my long-term goal that I wrote down was to win 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals and be the first man in history to do that. Yeah, not because I really understood what that meant, but our greatest living, our greatest Olympian, living or not, Dawn Fraser, at that time was the one and only person in any sport, in any event, that had won 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals. And so, you know, I thought, well, Dawn did that. That sounds like a cool long-term goal. I'll be the first man to do it. And I had told Salnikov this in the story, and he sort of said to me, you know, you set yourself a task to see, or a goal that you could win 3. He said, you know, if you don't swim in Sydney, you'll be sitting, you'll probably be doing commentary or something. You'll be sitting in the stands when the 15 are swimming, and you'll ask yourself, could I have won? And the answer will be yes. And he said, you know, the next games will come around and you'll ask yourself again, could I have won in Sydney? And the answer will be probably. And he said, somewhere along the way, you'll ask yourself that question, and you'll realise the answer is I don't know. And he said, you're going to be retired for a very long time in life with the answer to one of the biggest questions you've ever asked yourself to be, I don't know. And you know, that was around the time too, at Queenslander, when Queensland had been having a bit of a shocking run in the state of origin, and Wayne Bennett brought Alan LAYNE back from the UK.
You're not bringing up these conversations, are you?
Of course. Inspiration comes from all the best places. And you know, he'd sort of come back this last hurrah to you know, to help inspire Queensland to win that series. And you know, I just remember thinking to myself, my God, you're right. Like, you can't stop and not know. And it is actually one of the things that I've sort of come away from my Sydney experience feeling actually quite passionate about, because you'll hear a lot of pundits telling athletes, oh, get out while you're on top, you know, so everyone remembers you as being the great athlete that you were. And, you know, pardon my French, but that's absolute bullshit. If you love what you do it for as long as you can do it well and you enjoy it. Because, you know, the example I often say is, you know, Ian Thorpe tried to come back for another Olympics. I've never heard anybody say, yeah, you know, he didn't really do well that last time out. He wasn't that good, was he? Of course he was. I mean, he's the greatest Olympian that Australia's had. And this idea that you have to get out on top, it's a disservice to people who love what they do and really should be given the opportunity to continue to do it for as long as they're enjoying it, as long as they're competitive and they deserve their spot. And, you know, I'm a petrol head by nature, and, you know, the sacrifice I'm making talking to all of you here tonight is that I'm not watching the MotoGP right now. It's recorded.
You're recording it. You'll be right.
But like Valentino Rossi, you know, he's 40. Everyone's saying to him, oh, you know, he's holding up a grid. He shouldn't be there. That's absolute bollocks. If he loves what he's doing and he's still competitive, which he is,
yes,
why shouldn't he continue to do it for as long as he loves it? It's absolutely the right thing. You know, answer all those questions. Give yourself the best opportunity to have your moment, and, you know, enjoy it along the way.
No, that's such a great response, and no doubt everyone in the chat room has got something out of that. Now, Kerri, how quick does this time go?
I know. I make up so many amazing questions for all the athletes, and I only get to ask half of them. But it's because, like, everyone's had such incredible stories, and sometimes we hear things and we have heard things that we haven't ever heard before. So, yeah, thank you, Kieren, for sharing that. And I totally agree with you. I did one more Olympics as well, and I didn't do obviously as well, but I did it to see if I could. I wanted to stay at the top for as long as I could, and just getting there, you know, how many hundreds or thousands of athletes in Australia train and, you know, practice for 4 years. Just getting to an Olympics is an incredible feat, you know.
Well, Kerri, you wouldn't have got to your Olympics anyway. I'm sure when you blew out your knee, you had plenty of people telling you it was over for you and you were done because your knee was never going to be able to cope again. And obviously you didn't believe them, because look what you did.
Yeah, so exactly. It's passion. It's the fun and the passion and the community. But I think we better get to our rapid 60-second
sprint time. Clap it in.
No, I said I'm not a sprinter, right? Remember,
I want quick answers, Kieren. I'm going to kick off with you, Kerri. You're last. I might throw a couple of curlies at you. Anyway, Kieren, over to you. We're going to start the clock. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. Did you sleep well before your big finals?
Generally, yes.
Okay. What did you eat on the day of your night races?
I always made sure that I had an enormous pasta dish, and I'm a bit of a boring traditionalist, so spaghetti bolognese was often a favourite.
Okay. What did you eat straight after? Kebab?
No, usually a big ass steak and a lot of fries.
Good man. Your fiercest rivalry?
Dan Kowalski.
Yeah, he's a legend too. Like, he's so good. What did you fill your mind with during the endless hours of following the black line at training?
All sorts of stuff. You often visualize the wins you were going to have, but you'd solve all the world's problems in your own 1,000 times over.
How long can you hold your breath for?
Well, back then for probably a good minute and a half. These days, probably 10 seconds.
Best roommate in the village?
I actually spent the last 5 or 6 years in my swimming career rooming with Chris Feidler, and he, you know, sprinter that he was an awesome roommate.
Worst person? I know we're going over, but Kerri does it, so I'm doing it too. Worst roommate?
Worst roommate? Geez, that's a good question. Worst roommate? I'm going to say Matty Dunn, because he was the loudest human being, loudest sleeper you've ever heard in your life. Hopeless.
Yeah, I can imagine that one. Most famous person you've met? It doesn't have to be an Olympian, just anyone.
Yeah, no, Muhammad Ali.
Ah, yes, that was a good one too. That's a good one. Kerri, I'm going to go to you. You're up. Ready?
Uh-oh.
I should have thought of some others. Anyway, here we go. All right. If you hadn't played V-ball, what would you have played?
Probably netball, and never gone to an Olympics because it's not in the games.
I know you said this the other day. Do you really hate sand?
I do really hate sand. I have to get every grain off.
It does go everywhere though, right?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere.
All right. How many times do you think you've actually jumped in your lifetime of playing?
We counted once 200 times in one training, so multiply that by 300 days and, 20 years. I don't know, thousands, hundreds and thousands.
Millions.
Have you ever been hit in the face with the ball?
Yes, I got hit in the face the day before the game started by the other Australian team player. Still got a scar on my nose.
Do you? Okay. Best beach you've ever played on?
The Gold Coast, surfers, beautiful sand and real squeaky.
Best part about losing?
None of it. No, there is no best part.
There isn't?
No.
The learning. Isn't it the learning? Anyway.
No, losing sucks.
Yeah, okay. Most famous person you've ever met?
Prince Edward.
Ooh.
Kissed him on the cheek.
Oh, no.
He didn't ask for it though, did he? You just got
we had this photo taken, and just as he's coming in to like do the whole it looks like we're going for the lips, but it was actually the cheek.
And do you have an Olympic tattoo?
No, I'm a clean skin. 2 chicken.
Boring. Hey, before we get cracking into the question, no, we'll get it cracking in the questions first. Let's get in the questions. Have you been looking at the questions, Kerri?
Yeah, I have. There's a few questions that we've pretty much answered.
Which one are we going to go for?
Lachlan asked a question about lowlights, highlights, and lowlights. What's a lowlight? What's probably, Kieren? What's one of your lowlights? Just a quick answer.
It's an awesome question. A low light. God, I don't know. I'm with Cookie. There are always lessons to learn.
Didn't mean they were fun though.
No. Didn't enjoy them along the way. That's for sure. Actually, I'll probably in '98 at the KL Games, Malaysia. I carried the flag in the opening ceremony, which was the highest of high. That was the most extraordinary thing that I'd ever done. But I'd actually started training quite well before that, and I was expecting to do reasonably well on the race, and I didn't. I came third, but I did not swim as well as I should have or expected to in that one. So I was pretty unhappy with myself after that.
Devo. There's another question for you, Kieren, about getting up at 4 to take your children to sports training. Did you ever have to get up early?
Payback? No.
No, lucky you.
No. My kids, unfortunately, I think Georgia was the one that was most likely to sort of give swimming a try. And it's funny the things that happen in life, right? First primary school carnival, she's turned up as a prepper, and at that point she could swim freestyle, but she wasn't couldn't do the other strokes and wasn't training or anything. She was just barely learned to swim. And when we walked in, one of the other mothers very innocently said to George, "Oh, George, you're going to have an awesome day today because, surely you'll win everything." And of course, George is just completely freaked out, never swam again. Played netball though at school, but yeah, no, none of my kids have grabbed the sporting gene hard. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. They all played, but just enjoyed it.
And the final question here, I'm just going to ask. David's just put it in there. What's your last piece of advice for our kids of today? Sporting.
Yeah.
And Kerri as well.
No, look, I think if you've got a dream in life and you're willing to sacrifice and give it a red hot crack, the thing you've got to remember is that there will be ups and downs along the way. And when you fall over, the most important thing to remember when that happens is not that you've fallen over. It's what you do about it and how you pick yourself up and move forward. So it doesn't really matter what you do in life. Stuff goes wrong. I mean, I'm in the middle of the second lockdown in Victoria, like so many people are, and it's easy to get caught in this negative moment that the world's ending and it's all too hard. But it's not what happens to us. It's how we pick ourselves up again and what we learn from it and how we dust ourselves off and try not to let the same thing happen again, and keep going. That makes you sustainably successful, I think, having that resilience and knowing how to push through.
So good, Kieren. And Kerri, I'm no doubt you'll be backing that one up. Kerri, I'm going to ask you, we're now 17 nights completed. Yeah. We've got a lot of people asking us to do the Paralympics, and I want to, but we have Paralympians in. And what's next for you, my friend? What's going to happen after this?
Oh, well, I mean, as most of you know, I do a lot of speaking and events and commentating and all that sort of stuff. So I have, everything has come to a complete standstill. And it was before COVID, about a year ago, that I thought, well, I really want to, I've been speaking for so long, I really want to now teach other people how to speak. And I thought, well, I don't want to just teach everyone. I'd love to teach athletes how to tell their story, because it's just so valuable, and everybody here would agree, hearing all the stories are just so incredible, and then just for us to be inspired by other athletes' stories as well. So that's kind of my next project, is to help, number one, athletes basically unpack their stories, because some don't even think that they have a story. You don't have to have won a gold medal to be able to tell your story. And then two, how to shape it into something that's entertaining, interesting to listen to, but also creates value for those people who they're speaking to. And then a little bit around how to present it, because I believe we need to be authentic. We're all different. Every athlete that's been on, some have been really flamboyant, some have been really quiet and reserved, others have been very motivational. So we're all different, and so I think it's around just teaching people how to be authentic. So my next goal is to take the athlete's story now into the world of sport in Australia and overseas, if they'll have me, and teach athletes how to share their story.
And I think it's been testament to this whole series, just hearing these incredible stories that you don't really see traditionally in face value when it comes to traditional based interviews. And when Kerri first said to me, Luke, one of the main reasons is being able to have a gold medalist interview another gold medalist. Sorry, Kieren, I'm not a gold medalist, but you get that. But you just do get that authentic nature around those conversations, and the ability to draw out the real moments that lead up to those massive moments that we all see as consumers, as viewers, that we always lean in and see. So I agree, Kerri. I can't wait to see your journey, and I know from my part with Cuppa of Life Cafe, we want to be a part of that ongoing discussion with you and everything that you've been able to achieve. Kieren, I just want to say a big thanks to you, mate, for joining us on our final closing ceremony. If everyone can please give Kieren a massive wave of gratitude in the chat room. Mate, you are an absolute legend. Growing up with you in the sport as well, looking at what you've achieved and being able to give back tonight as well as we raise funds for the Australian Sports Foundation is much appreciated, mate. So thank you so much.
Oh no, it's an absolute pleasure. It's one of those funny things along the journey. Well, 20 years post career. I'm a banker. I don't spend too much time thinking about where I've been or what I've done. But when the opportunity comes up, it's hard to say no. And especially for a cause and an opportunity like this. And just to sort of back up, Kerri, your comments to Kerri, that's what you're pursuing next. That is so awesome, because one of the questions I saw there from Rob was around, what have I learned along the way? The hardest thing for most athletes when they stop sport and they have to journey into the next stage of their life, the hardest bit's actually really understanding and appreciating the value of what you've learned and that shaped who you are, and how you can then direct that to other things in life. Because the one thing that I think I've learned and I know is that the physical stuff is important, absolutely, but actually human endeavour is vastly and most predominantly shaped by your mentality and the way you approach what you do. And for athletes, because we get so caught up in what we're doing, you don't really think about it or contextualize it in its value for things outside of your sport and what you do. So it's awesome that you're going to help athletes do that, because not only will you help them share their stories, but you're going to help them understand themselves and get through and become really successful humans in the next stage of their life. That's an awesome thing. So it's great to be involved in me doing that.
Thank you, Kieren. Really appreciate that. And thank you, Luke, too. Before we go, please, everyone, thank Luke as well, having us in the Cuppa of Life Cafe. None of us were being paid for this. No athletes were being paid. It was our time and our pleasure to be able to inspire the nation during the Olympics that would have been. So this is goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Please, everyone, stay motivated, stay inspired, stay across the Cuppa of Life journey as well. I just put it in the offers area. Make sure you join us every single day. We're here to help boost people's motivation, inspiration with positivity every single day. So thank you everyone for joining. That is it for tonight and the series. It's time to say farewell. Do we sing a song? No.
No. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Jill.
Charlie, all the guys behind the scenes as well, making this amazing.
You're all legends, and to all the viewers that have tuned in every single night as well, you have made this very possible, and thanks so much for all the great questions that you asked. We'll see you later, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for a great series. See you, Kerri. See you, Kieren.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kieren.
Bye.
Thanks.